National Tuberculosis and Leprosy Control Program reveals Nigeria has the highest TB burden in Africa, 6th in the world. Tribunal gives Atiku Abubakar 10 days to prove case against President Buhari. In international news, US-UK diplomatic relations testy after leaked statement calling Trump administration inept. Trump calls ambassador stupid. And in sports, Nigeria faces South Africa tonight in AFCON quarterfinals.
This is ANN News.
I'm Olajumoke Olatunji. National Tuberculosis and Leprosy Control Program says Nigeria has the highest TB burden in Africa and is ranked 6th in the world. Deputy Director Ahmed Mohammed says Nigeria is also one of the top 7 countries that account for 64% of the total global tuberculosis burden. Of the 7, India bears the brunt, followed by Indonesia, China, Philippines, Pakistan, Nigeria, and South Africa. Stop TB Partnership Nigeria Board Chairperson Lovett Lawson says more than $300 million will be needed to meet the target of ending the TB scourge in the country by 2030. A presidential election petition tribunal in Abuja has given a 10-day timeline for the People's Democratic Party (PDP) and its presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar to prove the allegation that the February presidential election was rigged in favor of President Muhammadu Buhari. The 5-member tribunal, headed by Justice Mohammed Garba, equally gave President Buhari, the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC), and the All Progressives Congress APC 6 days each to defend against the petition filed by PDP and Atiku. There was a mild drama on Tuesday during the Senate Investigative Committee hearing on the alleged assault leveled against Adamawa Senator Elisha Abo. The upper chamber had instituted an ad hoc committee last week to probe allegation of assault against Senator Abo at an Abuja adult toy shop. The probe degenerated when Abo appeared before the 7-member committee and declined to speak while the media were present. The panel was disturbed by the senator's attitude and reminded him of the consequence of his action. He was then asked to comply, but Abo insisted he could not be threatened with suspension. A management of the National Assembly has finally put to rest controversy surrounding the new condition of service that was approved by the Senate and House of Representatives. It has formally gazetted the new retirement age of 65 years or 40 years of pensionable service in the Federal Official Gazette. The Gazette draws the curtain on any agitation against any administrative regulation carried out by the National Assembly management in line with extant provisions of the 2014 National Assembly Service Act. A top official says the new condition of service was at no time a bill that required presidential assent as previously served in the public domain, but a sheer administrative regulation carried out by the bureaucracy and backed by parliamentary resolution. The insider disclosed that it is a self-administrative regulation of the National Assembly as provided in the National Assembly Service Act. A federal high court in Lagos has ordered the final forfeiture of the federal government of a property in Port Harcourt linked to former Minister of Petroleum Diezani Alison Madueke. Trial Judge Justice Austin Chuka Obiozo made the order of final forfeiture while granting an application brought by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. AFCC lawyer Ebuka Okongo informed the court the order had been duly obliged and that the said interim order had been published in a national newspaper. A digital rights organization has written to the Controller General of the Nigerian Immigration Service, Mohammed Babandede, demanding compensation for a citizen whose passport page was posted online. Geoffrey Ohoyuma's passport page was made public following an allegation that he had destroyed Nigeria's diplomatic vehicles in London last month. Ohoyuma allegedly destroyed many cars at the Nigerian embassy in London. Chairman of the Nigerians in the Diaspora Commission condemned the attitude of the 32-year-old Nigerian and senior presidential aide on diaspora matters. Abike Dabire said in a statement such an attitude was unpatriotic and an act of indiscipline. The organization is also demanding 10 million naira compensation for Ehohime. Coming up, African stories. Libya frees migrants from bombed detention center. And later, international news. US-UK diplomatic relations testy after leaked statement calling Trump administration inept.
You are watching ANN.
Welcome back. This is CNN News. Now to African stories. United Nations Refugee Agency UNHCR in Libya reports Tripoli officials have cleared migrants from the detention center that was bombed last week. More than 50 persons died in the airstrike, and most of them believed to be sub-Saharan Africans who were attempting to reach Europe from Libya. Forces loyal to a warlord, General Khalifa Haftar, were blamed for the attack. UNHCR has identified 55 of the most vulnerable refugees whom it will take to a departure facility on Wednesday before they are transferred to a third country. Zimbabwe is working on ways to mend fences with Britain as Foreign Affairs Minister Sibusiso Moyo prepares to meet with British officials in an attempt to attract foreign investment into the country. A Foreign Affairs Ministry statement says Moyo will seek to engage with British officials with the hope of further strengthening Zimbabwe's bilateral relations with the United Kingdom, Great Britain and Northern Ireland. The foreign minister's activities while in the UK will include addressing a gathering of Westminster African Business Group executives on investment opportunities and ease of doing business in Zimbabwe. Moyo will also attend the Global Conference for Media Freedom in the United Kingdom. As Zimbabwe embarks on strategies to attract foreign investment, the country has a great deal to do to rehabilitate its infrastructure that would make it possible for investors to operate there. The country has been experiencing many challenges in different sectors, and lately in the power sector has caught the attention of many as so many challenges have arisen, resulting in power failures and load shedding. Faraya Uwakutuya reports from Harare that now the power crisis is getting worse.
Botswana's Investment and Trade Authority says that the Southern African country is now open and
welding rods and grinders light up the night sky like fireflies as small businesses turn their schedules upside down to cope with the extraordinary circumstances.
And that means reporting for duty at 11 p.m., which is when power is restored here, and trying to get as much done before it's switched back off again before daybreak.
The restricted hours are hurting production.
Normally I make 3 scotch cuts per day, but in the 6 hours of power that we get, I cannot even finish one. So business is low because there's no way clients can give you more orders when you cannot even fulfill the ones that you have.
And taking a toll physically.
I fell ill after working in the cold for 2 nights in a row. I'm still not well, but I had to come or else my family will not eat.
There's growing frustration over the situation.
The government should make sure that we get better supply because we prepay for electricity, so it should be available when we need it.
A drought-induced drop in generation at Kariba Hydro Power Station sparked the crisis, which worsened after Zimbabwe was cut off by regional suppliers over piling arrears. Government, which has no answer for when the crisis will end, blames defaulters who owe power utility ZESA $1.2 billion for its failure to service the debt.
I need that money to come to ZESA. And when it comes to ZESA, we want it to be applied to situations that will increase or improve our generation of power. This matter is urgent, and we are taking or applying all efforts to make sure that we normalize the situation. We all need to be working together.
Right now, there's little work going on here. Even by day, some businesses like this fast food chain open only during peak lunchtimes to avoid running a generator throughout. A survival technique more are likely to adopt, with adverse impact on the economy.
And just like Zimbabwe, Botswana is also looking at ways to attract investors to the country to boost its economy. The diamond mining nation wants to expand and diversify its economy and achieve prosperity for all by 2036.
Botswana's Investment and Trade Authority says that the Southern African country is now open and ready for big foreign investments to revive its economy that has for many years relied on diamond mining. According to Reginald Tebogo, Botswana's Investment and Trade Center Chief Operations Officer, the country's strict laws on corruption will go a long way in setting the pace for economic transformation in Botswana.
We pride ourselves with low levels of corruption. Currently, we are the second least corrupt country in Africa, according to Transparency International, which to me is it's a selling proposition for investors who are interested in considering Botswana for investment.
Botswana is currently continuing to direct efforts towards implementing new reforms with a view to easing doing business in the country. The country is aiming at attracting not only foreign direct investment, but also much needed local investors with the ultimate goal of ensuring prosperity for all, which is Gaborone Vision 2036 aspiration.
Most of the big projects here are done by foreign companies. So which necessarily clearly shows that we are very, very open to attracting even bigger companies to come and operate in Botswana. You would realize that for small maintenance projects, they are also open for local businessmen so that we grow our productive capacity as a country to be able to respond adequately to the development challenges that are facing our country.
The construction industry has also been revived and is now acting as one of the areas the government is looking up to stimulate the economy and create jobs. The construction industry is being seen as key to providing infrastructure support to the national economy to power the country's sustained and accelerated modernization drive. The construction industry in Botswana has had a phenomenal growth, particularly in the last 2 decades.
Up next, international news. US-UK diplomatic relations testy after leaked statements calling Trump administration inept. And later, sport. Nigeria faces South Africa tonight in AFCON quarter-finals.
You are watching ANN.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit. We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow the story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is CNN News. Now to foreign stories. White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow says U.S. and China trade officials have held a constructive phone conversation on Tuesday that marked a new round of talks after the world's two largest economies agreed to a truce in a year-long trade war. A U.S. official said earlier in an emailed statement American Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer and Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin spoke with Chinese Vice Premier and Commerce Minister on Tuesday in a further effort to resolve outstanding trade disputes between the two countries. Kudlow said the talks went well and were constructive. He said the two sides were talking about a face-to-face meeting, but warned that there was not a magic way to reach what has so far been an elusive deal. And European signatories to a nuclear deal with Iran are calling for an urgent meeting of all involved parties to discuss Tehran's compliance with the agreement. Britain, France, Germany and the European Union called for the meeting Tuesday, one day after the United Nations Atomic Agency confirmed Iran has surpassed the uranium enrichment limit spelled out in the 2015 nuclear deal. The European parties said in a joint statement they have deep concern that Iran is not meeting several of its commitments under the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. European leaders have said Iran has told them it wants to remain in the plan, but added that Tehran must act accordingly by reversing these activities and returning to full JCPOA compliance without delay. And U.S. President Donald Trump said on Tuesday British ambassador to Washington, Kim DeRoche, is a very stupid guy. A new taunt aimed at undercutting the envoy's assessment that Trump is inept and incompetent. Trump said on Twitter, quote, "The wacky ambassador that the UK foisted upon the United States is not someone we're thrilled with," end quote. The U.S. leader continued in the tweet that DeRoche, Britain's top diplomat in Washington since 2016, should speak to his country and Prime Minister Theresa May about their failed Brexit negotiation and not be upset with his criticism of how badly it was handled. Trump then continued to call the ambassador a pompous fool. And meanwhile, the embattled Britain ambassador to the United States, Kim DeRoche, has resigned on Wednesday. He says it was impossible to continue in his role following the leak of diplomatic cables in which he assailed President Donald Trump as inept and his administration as uniquely dysfunctional. DeRoche's posting to the U.S. is not due to end until December, but he said he believes leaving now and allowing a new ambassador to be appointed was the right thing to do. He had been Britain's top diplomat in Washington since 2016, predating Trump's presidency. But with the disclosure of his comments in diplomatic cables sent to London, British officials had predicted this week that his days in Washington would soon end. Some British officials say they expect more of the Roche assessment of the U.S. president will soon be leaked. Welcome back. This is CNN News in Sport. Super Eagles is set to meet South Africa tonight in a quarter-final bout after beating the defending champions Indomitable Lions of Cameroon in 3-2 match at the Alexandria Stadium. This will be the third time in the history of Africa Cup of Nations championing that the Super Eagles of Nigeria will be facing the Bafana Bafana of South Africa. Interestingly, the Super Eagles have won the two previous encounters at AFCON 2000 and 2004. The Super Eagles and Bafana Bafana have met 13 times, with South Africa winning twice. A former Nigerian football striker, Emmanuel Amunike, has spoken up after being sacked as coach of Tanzania's national football team. Amunike was let go on Monday after coaching for 11 months and leading the Tanzanian team to their first AFCON tournament in 39 years. The former Tanzania coach says he's very happy with his players and is proud of their achievement even in defeat. Amunike was appointed in August last year and was fired after the team failed to win a match at the ongoing Africa Cup of Nations in Egypt. And that is CNN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatuji. Have a pleasant evening.